So today we're going to work towards trying to help you set a goal in order for you to go to your classes in the next week. And so then when you leave school, you'll be able to get into university. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds okay.
Yeah? Okay. So we're going to use the SMART acronym for setting a goal. So this stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevance and time. So what do you think a goal could be that we could work towards?
I don't really know.
Okay, that's okay. Alright, how about setting the goal for you to go to all your classes for the next week?
Okay, that sounds okay.
Yeah? Okay, great. So our goal is specific because it was designed just for you and with you. Okay, it can be measured through your attendance and it is up to you whether you choose to attain this goal by going to your classes. So it's relevant because it's going to help you work towards getting into the university when you leave school, and you have 1 week to achieve this goal. So how does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds really good. I really think I can achieve this and maybe start doing a bit better and attending my classes so I can go to university when I leave school.
That's great, Kayla. I'm really glad to see that you're so positive about setting a goal for yourself and trying to achieve it. So if this works, we can look at setting some maybe more long-term goals for you.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Hi Kayla.
Hi, Miss.
And how are you today?
I'm alright, I guess.
Okay. I noticed that you weren't looking happy in class, and this is not the first time that I've seen you like this, and it is concerning because it is impacting on your schoolwork. Is everything okay? Anything you need help with?
I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it.
That's fine. You don't need to tell me, though you should know that if you need to talk about anything, there is always myself and other important people that can help you. So you and I both know that you are not enjoying yourself in class, and whether it is from in school or outside of school, it's none of my business. But however, my responsibility as your teacher is to ensure that all my students are learning effectively towards a successful future. And I believe that positive learning starts with positive well-being. Do you know what that means?
Sort of, but not really.
It's okay. Well-being is your social and emotional learning. So one's well-being is never constant. Our energy is never static, but we should always strive to be positive. And to do that, we need to learn how to be resilient.
I'm a little confused.
That's okay. I wanted to show you something that I think would help you. So here's something. Looking at the scale, where do you think you fit on the scale as of this moment?
-3.
Okay. What about this morning?
I was probably a -6.
Okay. What about last night?
Oh, I had a really good night, so I think I was a +4.
Cool. Cool. Thank you for sharing with me, Kayla. This is what I mean by well-being. Your emotions are always changing, but it is always great to get as close as you can to 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a risk continuum scale. The lower you go on the scale, as you can see, the more chance you have of getting into risky behaviour that jeopardizes your education and your learning.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you want to be happy, and I want to help you move from, say, your -3 to a -2. No matter where you are on the scale, I want to help you move just one step higher. So this is being resilient, being willing to bounce back onto the continuum scale. So small and simple actions can help you move further up the scale. I know it might seem a lot to take in, but if you like this idea and you want to be happy and you want to improve your learning, we can sit down like this, use the scale and discuss simple ways to help you improve. So what do you think, Kayla?
This sounds really good. I think I want to try it out.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Adolescence, as described by Stanley Hall, is a period of heightened storm and stress. During this period of developing into an adult, people go through physical and cognitive changes. My personal model is based on Vygotsky's theory, where children learn and develop cognitively through social person-to-person interactions. His theory emphasises that learning happens from the outside and one's knowledge comes from the experiences in their culture. In my chosen teaching area of PDHPE, an emphasis will be placed on student-centred learning, based on Vygotsky's approach to adolescent development, where activities such as cooperative learning, role-playing, class discussions and problem-solving will be the aim to enhance the educational experience of students. For example, in the classroom, peer education may be used for promoting harm reduction in drug use and risk-taking. Working to the student's zone of proximal development is vital in teaching practices. To work in this zone, Vygotsky's theory suggests students should be encouraged to ask questions, work with a friend and find a positive role model. This can also be achieved through scaffolding, another teaching strategy that provides students with individualised support. Planning activities that encompass what the child is capable of doing on their own and what they can learn with the help of others will influence my future teaching practices.
I'm Jenny. As a maths teacher, it's important to consider the cognitive load the content of a maths lesson places on a student's developing brain. So many maths problems and techniques have a high intrinsic load, meaning they have many elements that a student needs to learn to be able to solve the maths problem. So during maths lessons with a high intrinsic load content, I will follow Vygotsky's idea of scaffolding by providing worked examples. Now these worked examples will break down the steps or the elements to the maths problem, making it easier for students to learn, process and therefore develop an automatic schema on how to solve the maths problem. The maths lessons also need to be well organised and structured to ensure that they do not contain any extraneous load. Now during a maths lesson it's important to keep the students engaged and maintain their attention to ensure that the information is actually processed. Now Piaget's cognitive development stage theory also suggests that around the age of 11, so in year 7, students are transitioning from a concrete operational stage to a formal operational stage, and this can have implications on how they solve mathematical problems. So for example, students in a formal operational stage have the ability to think more abstractly and therefore deal with harder, more complex maths problems easier. So when providing the worked examples and the scaffolding, it's important for me to consider the cognitive ability and stage of a student to ensure that I do not cause an advanced learner redundancy. So therefore, when planning and taking maths lessons, it's important to consider the cognitive load of the content.
My personal model is based off of the biopsychosocial approach. This approach was founded by Dr. George Engel in the 1950s. Using a biopsychosocial perspective shows that complex behaviour can be considered as a result of multiple causes. This approach takes into consideration the complex nature of individuals and, with some modification, can be a tool for teachers when trying to interpret behaviour in their classrooms. This approach systematically considers biological, psychological and social environmental factors along with their complex interactions. Engel claims that all three levels, biological, psychological and social, must be taken into account in every task. No single condition can be reduced to any one aspect. They are all more or less equally relevant in all cases at all times. This model can be linked to my KLA of PDHPE, as it is a partly physical subject, which can bring in all aspects of the approach, as some students may be more physically mature than others, which can affect them biologically, socially and psychologically. This approach can be used in the classroom context by making the students aware of the differences between students and how each aspect can affect each student differently.
My personal teaching model focuses on multiple intelligence amongst individual students and learning what influences their intelligence and incorporating that within the classroom. Individuals differ from one another in their ability to understand complex ideas, to engage in various forms of reasoning and to overcome obstacles by different ways of thinking. This goes against Piaget's stages of learning, where he addresses adolescence as a whole rather than individually. This is an issue for students who are considered more advanced or lower than the average student. He also disregards a stage that focuses on actually understanding complex ideas. So Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence argues that our conceptions of intelligence should involve gifted and diverse students, and that our lessons should incorporate multiple intelligences including musical, bodily, kinesthetic, linguistic, and logical mathematical intelligence. For example, in an English class, students who may feel like they are struggling with classic poetry could be assigned to bring in lyrics of their favourite song, and together we can analyse the structure of the lyrics as well as language techniques. This will be following Sternberg's notion of action-oriented knowledge, demonstrating what they are learning in class as well as enjoying it.